Yeah. I'll try.
I mean, you're on fire.
Yeah.
I'm going to reference.
One, two, three. 1, 2, 3. Hello.
1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Testing 1, 2, 3.
Sick.
Victoria competition. Tonight, it is the relegation six-pointer to end all relegation six-pointers. It is Melbourne Knights up against the Melbourne Victory. It's been a turbulent period for both clubs, but with a new board at the helm for the Knights, as announced yesterday, tonight presents its most vital clash this season as of yet. Currently sitting on 10 points with a game in hand over those fellow relegation candidates. Tonight really is make or break. The Victory, succumbing to a 2-1 defeat last week against Port Melbourne at this very venue, also leaves a lot of room for doubt. But as we are here at the home of the Matildas, tonight, football will take centre focus. I'm Neil Simon, joined by Bryce Rubin. Welcome back, Bryce, from the Northern Territory.
Yeah, thank you. First game as we get underway here at a very chilly Bundoora on a Monday, at least for myself, and very excited for this one, Neil. As you said, both sides have not had the ideal seasons in 2025, and there's been a lot of changes, as you mentioned, off the field at the Melbourne Knights, so let's see if it flows into a positive on the field.
Absolutely so, and some new additions for the Knights which haven't been announced just yet. We'll get into those names very, very soon. We've got a few departures. Dion Nicolaitis has signed with the Bentley Greens. Leo Muzzies has been departed and has actually moved states to New South Wales, has signed for Sutherland Sharks in NPL New South Wales and actually scored on the weekend against league leaders Rockdale Illingdon. He will be a massive out for the Knights. And I understand Kane Shepherd has also departed the club. The Victory, though, we'll get to that very, very soon as they look to fashion in a delivery towards the back stick. And might arrive so for Mihalidis, and it just hits the top of the crossbar. What a start. 57
seconds could have been their first goal for the Victory, and it would have been a good start. Obviously, the young side finding their feet really in 2025 as a top-flight NPL side. But from what I've been watching online from interstate, Neil, they've been holding their own. And I think tonight is a good chance because obviously the Melbourne Knights have been struggling, as you've said. So look forward to plenty of goals tonight to warm us up.
Oh, absolutely so. And we're going to have that first involvement now. Here is, on that right side, Masato Chiba, who gets clapped by John Kellis, and he is the one signing that the Melbourne Victory have made from Melbourne City. 2 goals in VPL 1 this season for John Kellis, the former Glenara Junior. It's very much weird to see Melbourne Knights in a predicament, Bryce. It's certainly not what we're used to, and the fans, it seems they've actually got a pretty good away contingent tonight.
Yeah, and I think with the amount of games we've got left in the league for the season, they're definitely one of the relegation battlers, as we see another chance here in the game. They're going to be one of the sides that definitely don't want to drop down to the second tier of Victorian football. Proud club, obviously old NSL club. Don't need me to remind people of that, but yeah, they've had good seasons. Just it seems like maybe that off-field turmoil that we have seen has translated, obviously change of coaches and whatnot, and players come and go. But again, it happens every year, so it might just be players not being able to handle what's going on.
Pressure is diamonds, and here is Tommy Semi with his first involvement, the new signing from Werribee City, and he's actually won his side of corner. Now that actually brings us to the new signings that the Melbourne Knights have brought in. One of those being one Tommy Semi. Of course, they did speak about their budgetary constraints and attaining long-term financial sustainability, and he's come and returned to the club. He's quite the player. He's brute force in nature, isn't he?
And his experience at this level too, which is the important thing that they're going to need just as a corner gets whipped in.
It's towards the back stick, and Casper Fonsbold might have to deal with it quickly, and it's eventually batted away by the Victory. There might be space for Kellis, but they'll bide their time. Here is John Kellis looking to bypass his marker and Fraser Dunlop, and a tug of the shirt for good measure. Play continues, and Yanni Zizis eventually has to draw it back, and the first slice of cheese goes to John Kellis. 3 minutes into his Melbourne Victory career, and he's gotten a yellow card.
Well, that's first game excitement for a new signing, isn't it? As you said, 3.5 minutes in, and we've seen one pretty solid challenge, and then the little incident there. But I guess when you come across town from city to Victory, especially, you've got to prove yourself early on, and maybe that's his way of doing it.
Well, absolutely so. And for the Melbourne Knights, they've also managed to secure a few other acquisitions, and one of those players we'll get into very, very shortly. As for the moment, Steve White is going to stand over this one. Is he going to roll it short towards Masato Chiba? Adrian Valenti was brought across as well. And of course, Anthony Duzel brought back as a victory winner on the counter-attack here. Here is Patrick Ball bearing down on goal. He slots it home. The Victory take the lead. It's clinical from the teenager, and the Victory are on the board.
Some very good transition play from Melbourne Victory. A real counter-attack and, look, ambitious free kick set up there for the Melbourne Knights, but really unravelled before our very eyes here on halfway, and a great bit of play from the young boys to go at 1-0.
18 years of age, and I've just seen Victory's football director, John Dudlitza, Arthur Dilly's the head coach, is here. He's making a few comments, Bryce. He could be in the frame for first team selection. 5 goals this season in the competition.
Well, I believe pre-season's pretty close to starting at Gosh's paddock, so I dare say a few of these young boys might be involved in that training setup over pre-season, and it's not a bad way to impress the first team coach, isn't it?
Speaking of pre-season, Bryce, I have to say it. The Australia Cup draw was last week. Of course, the Victory will play against Olympic Kingsway away in Western Australia. You've
Tough
also
game.
had a bit of a cup run of your own, Bryce, in Darwin with Darwin Olympic.
Yeah, we won the Northern Territory Cup, so the boys are taking on Nunawading of all teams. Would have been nice to have a game in Melbourne, but that's in a couple of weeks' time, I believe, and yeah, it's going to be an interesting challenge. You'd probably say the 2 lowest ranked teams in the Australia Cup, but it's going to be very exciting for Darwin football, no doubt.
Absolutely so, and of course we're blessed with your comments tonight. Chiba looks to roll it inside, and Victory looking to bat it away. It's a very neat touch from Steve White. It's Dunlop now, driving towards the byline, shapes one towards the back stick. No one in pursuit. Semi there to punch it away, potentially. Oh, it just drifts wide. But it's somehow kept in play. I don't think it will. That was an intriguing passage, but how about the intelligence from Steve White to play it down to that right side?
Yeah, smart play, and obviously Semic very involved in the early 6 minutes of this game. We did say that it could be a bit of a goal fest, and the early signs are there, so see what happens off this set piece.
It's fashioned in towards the near post. No one to meet it. It's Chiba. It's over the bar. Out wide. Of course, we haven't seen the Victory in the top flight almost a decade. I think 2016 was the last time in which we saw this Melbourne Victory squad involved, and they have a much better chance of staying up, Bryce, and I think the trajectory of the A-League is skewing towards young players, and Victory have an abundance of teenagers, especially that man, Casper Fonsbol, got his first start tonight, 18 years of age. Fascinating.
Yeah. No, it is good to see, and it's also good to point out too that in the VPL one that you've got Melbourne City and Western United at the top of that league too, so potentially have all 3 A-League youth setups in the top flight next year if all goes well for them.
Well, we would certainly hope so. For their case, at the very least. Here is White, dictating tempo, rolls it square back to Jack Morton. Out wide it goes. Semi. Rolled square, Morton with space, and is picked off by the young Vucks. Eventually, the Knights able to hold firm. Here's Ben Carrigan. He would have played in the NPL for the Victory. VPL 1 or NPL 2, as so many name changes, Bryce.
Feels like it changes every month sometimes.
All those years ago, several A-League appearances with the Victory as well. After a stint with Bentley Greens, he's arrived here at Melbourne Knights. Carrigan looks out wide for Fraser Dunlop, slightly ahead of him. He does well to retrieve the former Perth Glory youth product and Port Melbourne Shark. Out wide again. The Knights looking to dictate tempo. It's been topsy-turvy season. Ivan Franic came in. There was a bit of excitement. Kane Shepherd came in. Leon Muzzy. A few talented players. Dion Nicolaides. Not all of them showed up to standard, and eventually Franic decided to resign, and John Markovsky's at the helm. Former Knights player, a legend of the club. What do you make of the appointment so far? It hasn't been great.
No, and it was a tough position to step into for any coach of any standard, to be honest with you. And it's not saying Markovsky isn't up to standard, because he's done well in the NPL Victoria over the years with other clubs, but it is a hard one to step into, particularly at the stage of the season that he did. And look, from what I've been witnessing online, they're playing some good football. It's just the results aren't coming. And even with the Victory boys tonight, you can see they're playing a particular style that reflects the first team in the A-League. And the good thing is, even though it's a relegation battle, essentially tonight, that both teams are going to try and play and entertain the crowd and obviously get the result.
We would hope for their sakes they are able to do so. Ball fashion over the top, and it's claimed by Gabriel Marti, of course. Another one of those departures, Chris Oldfield. He was very upset with that decision to be made, considering he was recovering from shoulder reconstruction surgery, and he's been in the league for so long, Bryce. It's a great locker room presence to have, and I think losing him is a big loss.
Well, as I said about the Melbourne Knights bringing in some experience, he oozes it across multiple NPL clubs in Victoria, and obviously having the overseas background too brings that experience itself, which is very valuable to some of the younger boys. But I'm sure he's going to pop up when he's able to at another club, and we'll be back between the sticks, no doubt, next year in 2026.
I hope so. Here's Debena Abani, played for all three A-League youth teams. To parry it down that right side again. Victory unable to string all those passes together, and man, number 28, Charlie Gorevsky, has really broken in the last few weeks. Scored that wonder goal against the Oakley Cannons a few weeks ago. What a result that was. 5-2 winners that night. Inconsistency has been the bane of this team. You can put it down to a lack of experience, probably.
Yeah, I think so. I think when the push comes to shove in the NPL Victoria, as followers the league have known for many years, I think this time of the year, especially when you're not in the position you'd like to be on the ladder, sometimes I guess form goes out the window, and when it's like a cup run, really. When teams are chasing results, they're just going to do anything they can to get 3 points to keep them in this top flight. And yeah, I think the run home that Victory have isn't going to be the easiest, but I guess the good thing is that they do have other competitors like the Melbourne Knights tonight, for example, that the fate will be in their own hands and not going to be relying on other results, essentially.
It's always that balancing act, and especially with all the scholarship players currently on holiday, Luka Kulic, among others, Daniel Graskowski as well, and of course the departure of Alexander Menelau as Knights cheekily give away possession. Menelau just announced sign for South Melbourne Hellas. Makes sense, doesn't it?
Yeah, and South obviously have tried to strengthen a little bit in this transfer window, bringing the Japanese striker from the Eastern Lions too, that scored on his debut, was it the other night?
Yes,
yes, and
yes.
yeah, it looks very good in that South Melbourne team. So there's a lot going on with the teams in the bottom half of the ladder, and just makes for a bit of excitement for us calling these games on a cold Monday night.
Absolutely so, and of course the transfer window is transferring, closes this Thursday, so might see a bit more action from both of these teams in the coming weeks and months, you would expect. Victory holding firm in possession. Here's Debena Abani looking to feed his way through possession. To fashion one in low. It's not exactly going to sit up for John Radamisis, who has come back into the team. Steve White, semi, tracking deep to receive and plays it out wide to Papua New Guinea international Dunlop.
And Semi definitely looks to have added a nice bit of balance to their midfield, especially. He's been really on the ball, which you would expect from the PNG international. You said, as we see him here again, just holding off the young boys. And to be fair, the frame that he's got, these young boys for Victory, should be coming nowhere near him. So he would be the outlet I'd be looking for Markovski, as we see a chance on the edge of the box.
And Ostovsky looking to boat his way through. Easy to forget that he was also a mid-season signing outside of the window, but Victory might have the run of the Knights again down on that right flank. It's Patrick Wall once more, drifting his way into the penalty area region. It's Lazarevsky back to goal. Can he bypass the former Victory Academy product Carrigan? He can't. It's Radamisis now. Right edge of the box. It goes. It's Kellis who can't get a touch to it, and Semi is able to keep it in tow once more.
Yeah, I think if that touch away from goal probably just killed that momentum there. I think if he took the touch forward, might have had that 50-50 chance to get a strike away, but yeah, just taking the touch away kind of killed the momentum, and he didn't really have the support there with him. So that's one thing they can learn from the attack, and it obviously is something that we'll need to improve on throughout the game. Even though they are up 1-0, it's you can see this scoreline not really staying this way for too much longer.
Well, Knights do have the talent, and Ostovsky is one player that, when he's on form, is a diligent player, the former Altona Magic number 9. Well, has he 15 on his back, though? That's Kieran Bramwell. Of course, he's been the top goal scorer of the season with 6 in the league. Of course, the former Perth Glory youngster as well. Several games for him in the A-League as well. Here is Patrick Wall. Fashions it low, and Marty able to claim.
We've seen a couple of boys slip over tonight. It is a bit dewy. You might be able to see a bit of a mist over the home of the Matildas here in Bundoora, and maybe that does play a bit of a part. The one good thing it does, though, is actually speed up the play a lot, as we've seen so far. Like the crossfield switch for victory to open up that right side flank.
Chiba has space, the former Altona East Phoenix man. Made the switch from just about the state leagues, 4 or 5 tiers up from state 2. Played against Avondale last year in the Doherty Cup from memory. And here is Tommy Semi looking to go to work. It's back with Bramwell now. Going to whisk his way through. Can't do so now is Mihalidis of the Jack variety. Was his brother George at Austria Vienna. There's been rumours linking him back to the club, but remains to be seen. That's a great touch by Mihalidis. That is exquisite. Can he bypass the angle? It just whisks wide from John Kellis. The young Vucks are finding space down that right flank with joy.
Yeah, and the Knights are definitely going to have to wake up. It's been 15 minutes, and that is definitely not the first chance they've had this evening. And I think it's a bit of a wake-up call because it's just that transitional play that's really lacking at the moment from the Knights, and defensively more so. I think we had the chance there trying to go through 2 plays instead of trying to just keep the ball moving, and it just turns into another chance of the victory.
Bramwell has a fantastic scoring record with the Knights, and they might need his shooting boots tonight, but now it's a victory. Look to shape one in kindly. It's deflects once more. I think Yanni Zizis is pointing to the corner flag again. Yeah, definitely a corner there, and there's a half shot, you could say, and it's ended in a positive result for the victory, and geez, wouldn't they love to get a 2-0 lead inside the opening 16, 17 minutes. I only wonder what Boris Orostin is thinking. Non-victory head coach. This one's looped high towards a backstick. Marty able to claim, or did he quite? It was very close to it slipping from the palm of his hands. That is a sign of a weary and perhaps unsettled keeper. Well, he had about 9 or 10 blokes around him to deal with there, so he's done quite well. I would say so. Never thought I'd see Tommy Semi dropping into midfield to play a crossfield ball, but there we have seen it just now. PNG power from Tommy Semi. Steve White. Now it's Morton. The line is higher from the Knights. It's an intriguing manner to compose themselves within. It's Danastovsky utilising his trickery. Space for Fraser Dunlop. Across the face of goal it goes. Casper Fonsbol able to claim. Well, he came on last week, at and around the 70th minute, once Jonathan Sultan came off. Of course, he made a few mistakes. Not in the squad tonight. I have to assume it would be injury-based. Oscar van Schreek on the bench. He's even younger than Casper Fonsbol. Young keepers in the NPL Victoria. You love to see it. Radamisas out wide. The victory with pace and with numbers, perhaps. The absence of Hoey has not been exactly lingering so far. Here's Patrick Wall. What pace to bypass. It cuts it across for Lazarevsky. Victory with a gold mine of opportunities at the moment. Just can't find the back of the net. Wow. I think the Knights are very lucky not to be down 3-0 in the opening 17. But I think that's just a good example, Neil, of the two sides tonight. Victory really having an end product there without putting in the net, where the Knights putting in delivery but actually not having a target or an option inside that 6-yard, 18-yard box to really finish off a chance. So it's probably the one difference between the two sides at the moment, and I dare say it gives Victory the better chance at the moment just to go ahead a bit further as well. Speaking about young players, the Knights have got one, Emmanuel Wallace-Jordis, who played one solitary game for the Knights so far this season in the Doherty Cup. 17 years of age, started that game against Auckland City. They went 2-0 up. It was a fantastic double from Justin Lettieri that night. But it's a great turn from Kellis. Looks to shape it onto his right. He's got space to his right, and he decides to use it with Patrick Wall. And now Radamisas. Well, it's almost shooting practice, Bryce, at the moment. It's turning into a bit of a training session, at least the last 5 minutes or so. But look, I think the Victory coaching staff would be a bit disappointed that they're not putting these chances away, because the game could have been killed off, to be fair, in the first 19 minutes. So, yes, well, it's been like that tonight. It was last week, a 4-1 loss to Green Gully for the Melbourne Knights. Doesn't seem to get any better. It seems when it rains, it pours down at Knight Stadium. And we're not talking about raindrops. Here's Masatu Chiba drifting infield. He's got Bramwell for support. That's a delightful ball to Somi Semi. Across the face, he couldn't quite find Anastovsky. Himself also an ex-Victory product. And now it's Fraser Dunlop towards Chiba again. Across the face again. Calls for handball, or waved away, and that is exemplary work from Tabena Ubani.
Would have loved to have seen Semi be a bit more selfish there, Neil, on the edge of the 6-yard box. I know he's probably done the right thing as a team player, but I think the way he's been looking tonight, he does look like one of the goal threats for the Knights, and I just would love to have seen him actually take a strike on goal and test out the keeper.
Well, you would like to see that for sure, of course. The former Hamilton Wanderer, he's Dandenong City, Werribee City, Geelong Soccer Club as well. And it's a very good record at international level. 10 goals in 26 games. It's not bad whatsoever. And in the qualifiers, he's scored a few goals as well, and 2 in 3 appearances in the World Cup qualifiers for Papua New Guinea. Obviously, they haven't made the World Cup, which is a bit of a shame.
No, they were a bit off, but yeah, it's still to play international at any level is a good individual achievement. So, well done for Semi on that one as Knights come forward again with a bit of space in this right-hand side, Neil.
Sato Chiba, Japanese import. Just halfway. Nice 2-punch with Kieran Bramwell. Doing and throwing with Tom Werndl. Morden. Bramwell, he tracked very deep to receive that. And Semi as well. The line is just getting deeper and deeper, and there's a lot of defensive hesitancy. As we've just seen.
I think it's to the credit of the Victory setup defensively as well. There's a real central block, and you can see them leaving those wider areas for Knights to try and go and play down, because maybe they've worked out the last 5 to 10 minutes that putting the Knights into those wide areas isn't really harming the balls coming in. But as I said moments ago, there's no real target on the end of the ball. So maybe they're just going to clog up that central corridor. As we see it again, there's at least 5 or 6 of the Victory midfield and forward line basically in between the 18-yard lines, which is a good defensive shape.
It's a great defensive shape for the Victory, but can they exploit their defensive lapses in judgment? That is a massive challenge from John Kellis to do on a yellow card. You love to see the intuition, but it might come back to bite him later. Now it is with Damian Bozanovsky. Recent return from injury is, of course, the very well-known last name in Victorian football. His family with Bozanovsky was in attendance last week as well. They look to be a different team when he's involved.
It's good to see the Victory just being patient here and just trying to open up the midfield channels, because they are opening, especially on this left-hand side too. I think the Victory might get a fair bit of joy out of here as the game goes on, and they're looking for that long ball. But obviously coming from the A-League setup, you don't see the Victory A-League men's team playing too many long balls. So
no,
it's definitely filtered down to the youth ranks too. But yeah, the good patience here from a young side. So it's quite mature for their age.
The Knights are beginning to press themselves as well. Here is Bozanovsky once more. Thorns ball. Just see Adrian Valenti pressing with so much intent. Of course, new signing from the Preston Lions, formerly of Bankstown City Marconi, and part of the Wanderers youth setup all those years ago. And I think Lazarevsky is certainly to be offside here. He is.
You can see there with the offside call that was that ball that is presenting itself more often than not for the Victory. And they decide to play it instead of forcing the Knights to come and press them, which, to be honest with you, Neil, I'm a bit surprised that Knights let them have the ball as long as they did there. You can normally let them go a good sequence or two of events, but they're actually giving the Victory quite an amount of time, and the way the game's been going so far, you probably want to shore things up a little bit defensively if you're John Markovsky.
Oh, absolutely. I think relatively undersized pairing. I mean, Tom Werndl and Ben Carrigan, and I mean, the fullbacks, not distinctly fullbacks. I mean, Dunlop was more or less a right winger when he came to Victoria from Bayswater City a few years ago with the Port Melbourne Sharks, and it's intriguing to see the manner in which these players have been fitted in and how much of this squad they've lost from last season in years gone by. It's hard to even forget that they were in a NPL Victoria semi-final and playing some scintillating stuff under Ben Khan, and have fallen by the wayside in the most calamitous way, to be honest.
Yeah, and like one of the main jigsaw pieces in Ben Khan's formation that came down from Brisbane with him was Stephen White, who basically runs the midfield. So the DNA is still trinkled amongst his squad, but it's just not coming through, as we've seen in results this year. So the potential's there, as we see the Victory spray the ball wide. And as you mentioned before about Tommy Werndl and Ben Carrigan, they're two experienced centre-backs in the NPL Victoria. So defensively, especially Ben Carrigan, having been on the A-League books before, you'd be expecting the likes of him and Tom Werndl to sort of, I guess, grow in voice on the field and kind of guide the side around.
Strange thing, the NPL. It's a very strange thing. You see a VPO1 player lighting up the league in Yuki Uchida from Northcote City, and now at Dandenong Thunder. It's unbelievable. It's even hard to forget that Anthony Pantazopoulos was playing in this competition a few seasons ago, and now he's been linked with English Championship clubs and clubs in the Polish Ekstraklasa. That is a fantastic nutmeg from Kellis, and he can't bypass Dunlop. Utilise his physicality to full effect. Bramwell tracking deep on this left flank, and there might be space for Melbourne Croatia to exploit, and Tommy Semi is the man you'd want on the ball in this situation. As he looks to drive, does Tommy Semi. He still goes Semi, blistering pace, as he looks to weave his way around the D region. Dunlop now looks to shaping across towards the back stick. It's Smozanovsky who gets it clear, and Semi looks to drift it onto his right and drive it inside for Chiba. And sometimes too much power can lead that to happen, Bryce.
Yeah, but you can see he's definitely the spark in the Knights that they needed here tonight at the home of the Matildas, and I think he just needs probably another 2 or 3 of his teammates to sort of get up to his level that he's on tonight, because he's definitely the man leading the charge, as you said there. And look, I like the ambition he had there to drive forward, because he didn't really have another option. So take the game on, and the positivity will come out of it.
Here is Fraser Dunlop drifting inside, looking to take the game on. In many ways, as Fraser Dunlop, he's certainly grown from playing Major League 23s football with the Port Melbourne Sharks a few seasons ago under Adam Piddick, and he's come to earn opportunities, and he's done so. That's a fantastic lead from Anastovsky. It's Morton, shapes one into the central channel in the box, but no one to meet it, and Kellis is the one, and so too is Mihalidis. Patrick Wall asking for it, but I think he's going to have to settle and relax and compose himself. Linus Burke now, one of the more older players within this Victory youth team at the age of 20.
I think that last passage of play there from the Knights, there was a good example. Anastovsky basically having 3 defenders to deal with inside the 6-yard box, and a Melbourne Knights player not even within an option of him, and that's where they're going to have to get better at half-time. And I think John Markovsky's going to have to make his attacking force aware of that, because if he watches that back, you can't let that happen. You can't leave your striker out 1-on-3 defenders. It's not going to end well for him any day of the week. And as we've said, the opportunities are coming there for the Knights. It's just maybe that goal will spark him into gear. They've just got to go and get it first.
And I think to say, the Knights obviously have signed Tommy Semi. He's arrived from Geelong Soccer Club. It doesn't say a lot about your ambitions as a team that looks to fight relegation if you sign Tommy Semi. I'm not saying he's not a good player, but his record this season hasn't been great this season either.
I think too, like when you're in a position where you are at the moment, on and off the field, let's be honest with you, it's hard for a player of higher quality in the NPL Victoria to want to come to that environment, even if it is for the remaining 8 games of the season, because who knows what could happen in that 8 games for you going forward into a new season in 2026. So it's a hard position, but they've only got themselves to blame because they put themselves in it. So yeah. I think once you get into that position, as you see another ambitious attempt from a good 35 yards out from the Victory, I think, the only people that can get yourself out of this trouble is the players that you've got.
And they have the individual quality. It's going to be a Herculean task. And Albans were on 10 points at this point last season, and they did bring in, I think it was just Lee Broxham. That was the main player they brought in. I think Lucas Burns was a pivotal cog in them staying up last campaign, but I really struggle to see, especially with 3 going down this year, Bryce. It's looking incredibly grim, but nonetheless, there's still 60 minutes of football to be played here at the home of the Matildas, and there's left out of play for Valenti.
Yeah, and there is rumours of A-League experienced players coming into the Knights the remainder of the season, but if you believe what you're hearing is true, it's an almighty ambitious thing to do for the Knights, but it could save their season. So we'll see what happens, because as you said, the transfer window is open until midweek, so they've still got about 48 hours or so to get another 1 or 2 signings across the line and see what happens for the remainder of this NPL season.
Time is not with the Knights at the moment in terms of the season entire. Of course, now in round 20, only 6 games to play after this round. And the Victory have a stranglehold over possession and the proceedings tonight. Let's not forget they're also in a dangerous predicament. They're currently in a position of going down.
Well, looking at the way that the 2 sides are playing tonight in front of us, it's just, you wouldn't think the Victory are in a position where they are in a relegation battle with the Knights, but they just look a bit of a class above at the moment, at least in the first half.
It's shaped in from that right flank, although no one to meet it for the Melbourne Knights. Here's Semi, just the 4 goals this season for Geelong in 17 appearances in VPL 2. The drift onto his right is Semi, looking to shape one from distance. That's what the Knights need, a bit of ambition.
Well, that was a good 30-yard strike from Tommy Semi, and we've said it multiple times on this game already, Neil, that he is the spark that is going to bring something to light for the Knights in this game. I think there's maybe another 1 or 2 that have showed signs, but he's the one that's been that repetitive factor for the Melbourne Knights this evening.
He has been, and it really says volumes when there is someone like him that you can utilise to your disposal. We know what he can do in this league. Of course, has had trials at A-League clubs in the past, the Jets most notably. And that's a nice little flick towards Morton, and there's space for Branwell. Can he bypass Vanamesis? He can, and I think he's one inside a corner. That's a good sign, and the good thing about this game being played in the northern suburbs is that you get other fans of other teams come here, and I've seen a few FC Strathmore jackets around as well, which is nice to see.
Yeah, and if you're not here, the beauty is you've got our live stream where you're probably nice and warm in your lounge room. Maybe even lying in bed watching it this time of night. Half your luck, but we're warm nonetheless.
Shaped in. Bosanovsky did well to contend, although danger not quite yet averted for the Melbourne Knights. It's Masatu Chiba. He twirls onto his left now, and he's got space to work with. It's designed to utilise Carrigan, who shapes one in himself. That is not the greatest of execution. Valenti. Lateral ball for White. And now Fraser Dunlop driving with pace and vigour, although in a quite narrow channel. Pretty straight line it was. Here's Fraser Dunlop again. He's got the advent of Morton to his right, who shapes one in himself. A free header, not quite for Kieran Bramwell, but Valenti might look to try his luck from distance. He does so. And Casper Formsbowl able to parry it away, although Anastovsky able to pick up the scraps, and eventually Charlie Gorevsky gets it away. The Knights continue to pressure. Masatu Chiba, light touch for Anastovsky outside of the box. It's Darcy Anastovsky. Oh, it's curling, and I thought for a second might have been past Casper Fonsbol in goal.
I was just going to say, Neil, a bit of a weak attempt there from the Knights, but you're right, it was a late sight there from the Victory keeper, and he had a passage of 2 of those late saves in the space of 30 seconds. So it's good to see the Knights doing something positive around the 18-yard box. I think they can get Fraser Dunlop involved in this right-hand side. He's putting in some good deliveries, so he could be the outlet to provide something from the wider areas. We've obviously got Tommy Semi that we've mentioned multiple times on this call through that centre corridor of the park, but it's starting to look a bit better as we've got about 10 or so minutes remaining in the first half.
I just find it outrageous, Bryce, that this Knights team defeated the table toppers, Heidelberg United, in round 1. It just beguiles me to think of that very thought. And considering they're in complete polar opposite positions at the moment, it's fascinating.
I'm going to be honest with you, I didn't see that game because I was in a state. But, yeah, look, knowing where both teams are now, I think it might be a question of what's happened in that second week of training, I don't know, to disrupt the boat as badly, because that is a good result, as you said, and everyone's aware of how well Heidelberg are doing at the moment under Johnny A. And the Knights, well, they could have a chance to get another goal. Well, they're first of the game here.
Bramwell with a strike. They look to pounce on the counter-attack briefly. It's Bramwell again who slipped on the deck and will slide out of play, but they have to capitalise on those counter-attacking opportunities. That's how the Victory got there first, through Patrick Wall, but Kieran Bramwell looks to be a one-man wrecking ball at the moment.
And much of the possession has really fallen the Knights in the last 10 or so minutes. Fair to say that Victory had the opening 20, 25 minutes of play with multiple chances to score. To be honest, could be up 4-0 in reality, but haven't taken their chance, and that's where it could come back to bite you. And it's shown the light through the door, Melbourne Knights, and it's taken them about half an hour or so to get into it, but they're now starting to show a bit of positivity and getting forward with purpose. So we'll see how the remainder of this half continues.
Well, Victory have collapsed late. That's been a real bane of their existence this season. They've dropped many points from winning positions in the NPL Victoria this season. Against good teams as well, Dandenong Thunder, Avondale at this very facility. So it remains to be seen as to if they can hold on tonight.
I guess that can happen too. If it's happened on multiple occasions, a younger side being experienced and seeing out games against seasoned NPL teams, and obviously it's the Victory's first year in top flight of Victorian football.
Here is Bramwell. He's got space to roam with. Oh, he goes near post. And I believe that was slotted all the way through to the side netting. So it will be a goal kick. That was an encouraging bit of play from Kieran Bramwell. 24 appearances for the Glory in the A-League with 3 goals and looking to add to his season tally tonight.
Well, the confidence to back yourself in that position is definitely a positive for the Knights. I know that they did have options then to cut back, but if you've got a player that's going forward with some purpose, you want to see that. If you're chasing a game, try and level things up with a bit of moment of brilliance.
You never know what can happen in this competition. As a Knights player was brought down, that specifically being Adrian Valenti. I have to say, with 9 or so minutes before the half-time break, to get a goal to level things at the moment, we're that golden at this point in time.
Well, it definitely changed the vibe of the change room going to half-time. I think John Markowski, even though they're down the scoreboard, I think the way that they're ending it so far, if they can at least keep it at 1-0, is a positive because, to be fair, they were outplayed the opening 20 minutes of the game. So to still be in the contest is a good thing, as we're starting to see a lot of players slip over on this surface tonight. It's in good nick.
Yes.
Went for a bit of a walk on the field before, and it is dewy, but you think if you've got medals on, you'd be all right.
So all the Academy boys have medals on, you'd expect?
You'd hope so.
What's the pitch out there in the Northern Territory? What do we expect in a few weeks when another one is
Nana Wadding will be in for a challenge. I think the weather won't be the worst thing. I think dealing with the pitch up in Darwin, the NPL up there, which is what it's called, they play on the one stadium pitch. Great facility, but the pitch is good, but it's firm. Very different to Melbourne, I can tell you that.
Well, I believe they play all NPL matches on that same ground,
yeah,
to be honest.
we were, yeah. So the top flight of men's football up there, the Men's Premier League, does play every game there, and they must have full-time ground staff to look after it. But fun fact for you, it's the biggest pitch in Australia by a good 5 metres.
Really?
Yeah, in length and width.
Wow.
They had to bring it in for the Australia Cup qualifying games a few weeks back because the pitch was too big, so they had to remark it to make it smaller.
Wow.
For A-League standard sizing. So that goes to show the size of the pitch, and I have no idea why they do it. I can tell you, though, you feel it over 90 minutes, that's for sure.
You're doing more work than the professionals, Bryce.
You just don't get paid like him.
Here's Masato Chiba. On the halfway line now is Stephen White, formerly of Olympic FC. Morton. Slanted back fine for the Victory, out of possession. It's Dunlop. Inwards for Chiba. He's got Victory players to contend with, and real firm, resolute Victory back 5 as White looks to shape one in. It might sit kindly for Anastovsky, although his touch was heavy. And out of play for a throw.
And speaking of the Australia Cup, Neil, you might actually see a few of these Victory Youth boys feature in their clash against Olympic Kingsway over in Perth. Not a bad WA NPL side.
Not at all. And I believe last season they assembled the NPL Victoria All-Stars.
Yeah.
Aaron Williams, Liam Boland,
Yeah.
Mitch Oxborough, not quite NPL Victoria, but still.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, they had a very experienced squad last year, and that's why they got to where they did. But, yeah, I think obviously Victory commencing pre-season maybe this week or next. And the Australia Cup games, from what I've been told, are about 3 or so weeks away. So 3 or 4 weeks away, depending on what match day you get placed into. So
Yes.
it's not a long pre-season to get into some match fitness for the Victory A-League side. So I think they'll be very reliant, particularly against an NPL side.
Well, here is the Knights again, who look to make their foray forward, and Victory's defence a little bit lackadaisical in that instance. Anastovsky was caught out, and Nazarevsky will look to create space on that right flank for Patrick Wall. Has 1 goal tonight already, and look to bypass Werndl. Into the mixer it goes. And his Radamistis once more, and picked off by Kieran Bramwell. And there is a Victory player down. This is not good news. The Knights will look to counter-attack here through Kieran Bramwell. Play hasn't been stopped. Gorevsky providing support. Rolls it square, and Osovsky on the edge of the area it goes. Unable to find the all-important pass. The player is still down for the Victory, so this is not good news, but that might be a good chance to be scored here, but foul is called. This is very intriguing.
Has he may have pointed the wrong way. No, he's called a free kick, but I'm not sure what the assistant referee was flagging in which side's favour. I would have probably said it was a Victory free kick, in my opinion, but our referee's pointed in favour of the Knights as the Victory player's still down. But interesting call, that one, Neil.
This is why I'm not a referee. I'll leave it to the professionals to do it. And Yanni Zizis, of course, is one of the best we have here at the home of the Matildas. Of course, this is actually where his office is, I believe, as well, Bryce. So I think Patrick Wall is down. Of course, he's been outstanding tonight. An 18-year-old. You would have said on the balance he'd be in the mix for that Australia Cup 11 in a few weeks, and hopefully it's not too bad for him tonight.
Yeah, it will be interesting to see how the Victory do go into that game, as we were just speaking about. Some of these boys in the youth team might feature over in Perth, but it just depends on the importance that the A-League men's side place on the Australia Cup this year. I guess they're not going to take a team like Olympic Kingsway lightly, but at the same time too, you don't want to risk injuries short or long term to your professional A-League contracted players so early in the pre-season.
Well, looks like he's all okay, and they're not looking to bring on another player, Victory, so I think we'll see the return of Patrick Wall, fortunately for Melbourne Victory supporters. Alex Lee's actually returning to the club as well from his stint in Slovakia, and he will be back with the team soon. It was a very short stint in Slovakia. He only made the one Melbourne Victory matchday appearance, and that was in the Australia Cup against Lambton Jaffers. It's a nice play by the Knights down that right flank. It's Valenti, and Victory force a corner. And Patrick Wall, that was actually his first action in the second half. Well, there you go. It's not second half, since he returned, should I say.
Yeah. No, it's good to see Knights starting to get a bit of ascendancy in this game. They probably had the better of the last 10 to 12 minutes. Looking at the scoreboard, we are inside 2 minutes remaining plus stoppage time, and definitely finishing off this first half the stronger of the two sides.
Of course, Alex Lee, the 18-year-old. Wonderful addition. We'll get into that very soon as the Knights fashion one towards the backstick. Werndl was there. Oh, it was a swing and a miss from Stephen White. Glorious chance. And Astovsky now semi with the one-touch pass through. Gorevsky gets it clear. Oh, and dearie me, John Kellis is in a foot race here with Fraser Dunlop, but has made an absolute meal of that. What a golden chance for the Victory, and in turn for the Knights, but I don't think... I was going to say, I don't think we have the action has come to a halt, but it has.
Oh, and he's been Victory's best player, in my opinion, this first half, but he probably summed it up nicely, Neil. He made a meal of that one with a decent-sized touch.
Well, there you go.
Young fella, but look, he's definitely been the attacking threat in the front third for the victory to get him going forward. He's been a very traditional player too, so he's very box-to-box. First time I've seen him play in person outside of the live stream, and definitely like what I see from the young kid.
Semi potential handball call, but it still is Tommy Semi, and Casper Fonsbol forces the save away as the crowd begins to come to life here at the home of the Melbourne Matildas. That's a great strike from Tommy Semi, and an even better save from the young keeper.
Yeah, Semi again. Mentioned him a couple of times on the broadcast this evening. He's definitely lighting the spark for the Knights, and he's now got a few of his teammates stepping up to the level that he's played at from the referee's kick-off. So see the Knights coming into it a bit more. I think they'd be even happier to go in locked at 1-1 off this set piece.
The Knights deliver from the corner potentially. It's evaded everyone, including Ben Carrigan. And out for that goal kick, 1 minute of added time. And I must say, Bryce, if you haven't made an A-League senior appearance, if you featured in a Melbourne Victory matchday squad, would you say signing from MSK Zilnia, under-19s in Slovakia, would be quite an intriguing move for Alex Lee, but he'll be coming back to this Victory side. You
could call it a life experience going over there. And
yes.
I suppose maybe a single young lad going to experience football in another country, that could be good. It could be a good thing like going to university in a different state, just not touching a football. So maybe that's the way he looked at it.
Well, it's good to see him back. Hopefully soon. I believe he's been playing in the under-23 squads for a few weeks. That's a delightful touch from Masato Chiba. He's got his friend in Fraser Dunlop for support. And Victory defends so well. And this is where they do their damage. It's on the counter. You see Lazarovsky running with pace, and it's back towards Marty. This is an intriguing defensive position for the Knights to be in. And that is the halftime whistle. We had our first goal within 4 minutes. It was Patrick Wall who slotted home into the bottom left corner. The Knights left to rue, but all is not yet lost as we see this game at 1-0 going into the halftime break. Bryce, your initial thoughts?
Yeah, I think Victory definitely started the stronger the first 20 to 25 minutes, but I guess the balance of play is definitely levelled out, even though the score is 1-0 in favour of the home side here in the Victory, at the home of the Matildas. But look, it's a good sign of what's to come in the second half. You can bet your bottom dollar that
Round 20 of the NPL Victoria. It is Melbourne Knights up against the Melbourne Victory. And I must say, at a very packed home, the Matildas, it's heating here. It's very busy on a very cold Monday night, Bryce. The opening goal was scored by the man, number 22, Patrick Wall. What do you make of the first half, and what did the Knights need to do to salvage not just the game, but their season and as a whole? Yeah,
if you have just joined us, Neil, it was a first half of two halves with the Victory having the dominance of the opening 20-25 minutes, but then it really skewed in favour of the Melbourne Knights as we see the men in red and white this evening get us underway for this second half. And on the balance at the end of the first half, you'd say Knights, you would think might come out stronger, but it's just, you never know what happens in a half-time change room, Neil.
You never know, and that was their 45th goal conceded in 20 games. Their second worst defensive record in the league, aside from St Albans. And it might be a second for Wall, as Valenti is unable to latch onto that pass. And that's another miscommunication at the back from the Melbourne Knights. Unbelievable turn of events these first 30 seconds. My word, just no one on cue whatsoever.
No, and I think the Victory had more time in the 18-yard box than they did for that chance, but I don't know what happened in the Melbourne Knights change room at half-time, but they might want to come out because they've got a lot to chase down.
They do win the free kick in a deep region, and there's space on that right flank for Melbourne Knights. Masatu Chiba forced out wide. Obani coming for support. It's rolled square, took a deflection. It's back with Morton. Can't get the first touch required.
And I think you'd, if you were John Markovsky at halftime, one thing you'd be looking to slightly tweak, in my opinion, would be just your attacking third. I think we mentioned a couple of times in the first half broadcast that they're getting in the position, but they're not really leaving themselves much of a chance to get an actual goal with just being outnumbered by the Victory defence. And it wasn't even a defensive block from the Victory. It was just simply having their back four, back five there, and the Knights not promoting the midfield like they probably should.
They do have space for the delivery, though, the Knights. It is a good one. It's Bozanovski. It's Semi. Chests it down. Calls for handball. Weaving around the D region. It's Valenti. Scoops one up for Mr. Semi, and Wall sends it into the grandstand.
I think it's little passages like we've just seen now, Neil, that just to simplify the game for the Knights to get them back in. I think going outside your means and promoting something that's going to look good on camera isn't really going to get you the goal. I think, as we see Semi again, he was the man in the first half, if you have joined us, was the dominant figure and the real spearhead for the attack of the Knights. But getting back to my point, just simplifying the game if you're the Melbourne Knights, I think you're going to get more out of it, especially in the opening stages of the second half.
Have to be more succinct in the way that they approach and be a bit more simple. And that man, Tommy Semi, has been all over proceedings tonight. Linus Burke giving away the free kick. And it's not just the departures of Muzzy and Shepherd, it's Mark Petriotis as well as Stefan Bresovic, who is signed with the Bulleen Lions. So it's shaped in nicely from Knights once more. White with the header, headed back by the Victory. It's Anastovsky in a bit of trouble. And Fraser Dunlop had to be perfect there. He was, and he's beaten past two or three Victory players. Morton, a bit of a makeshift crow turn. It's now with Semi. Out wide, it's Semi once more. Is Werndl in an offside position? It doesn't matter. It goes out for a goal kick. A little space for the Knights to create something, but it's more promising.
Yeah, some good positive play from Fraser Dunlop, and I do actually like the ambition there of Tommy Semi trying to get inside the box just by swinging the line. And you can see the Victory have a great defensive setup for a young side, particularly. It's quite mature, and it obviously has stemmed from being around the A-League men's side too, but I think they're going to be hard to break down, particularly when they're 1-0 up. They're not going to let a 1-0 lead go too easy.
Here is Semi. Pass was intercepted by Linus Burke. It's neatly worked by Jack Morton. Oh, it's actually nutmeg Patrick Wall. A bit of a zizou about Jack Warden there. Very nice piece of play. And Gorevsky able to win the challenge. Space to his left, space to his right, and decides to go central and find space on that left flank for John Killis. And looks to curl one, and it's drifted over the bar.
Yeah, and I think, don't know if we caught it on our wide pan on the camera, but it was essentially 5-on-4. And I mean, 5 boys in victory up against 4 defenders, so they definitely had the measure cut out from the other Knights. But look, they've done well to not concede for dangerous opportunity, and we resume with the Knights going direct, and that's what I'm talking about. I think there's opportunities for the Knights to play out through the middle of the park, and when we've seen Tommy Semi come a bit more central, Neil, that's when he's getting involved in creating something. But going direct to him out in the left flank or direct to the striker isn't going to get them possession high up the park. They need to keep possession and drive forward.
Mihailidis twisting, weaving, turning, and shot to flex out for a corner. I have to agree with your points though, Rice. It's Tommy Semi does his damage best in a central channel, but his prior stint with the Knights, this is actually his 4th club in just over 18 months. Well, his 3rd club, but his 4th transfer per se, I'm not sure. But
it's a full wardrobe.
Oh, yes. I would love to see if he still has all the shirts with his playing career across the world, to be honest. Australasia as well. Short from Mihailidis. Delivers one low. And I think that is hit the pool at the home of the Matildas.
Wasn't that a grandstand about a month ago?
Yes, it was.
Yeah, okay.
This is the greatest facility in all of Melbourne. That will be converted into a pool, I believe, very soon, if rumours are to be believed.
Has a look from our vantage point as wet cement. I hope not, for the sake of the game, but yeah.
Well, obviously he's still bopped up on the ground, which is good to see. It's delivered centrally, and it's John Kellis. Oh, that was dipping, wasn't it? From John Kellis. And Tom Werndl will come and pick up the scraps here for the Knights. He's been at the club for several years. One of the very few players that has stuck around for a lot of time. Wall looking to feed one through. And Semi with a nice 1-2 punch. White. Bramwell. Carrigan.
Just an update, Neil knows, playing along at home on the ball on the old grandstand site. Security guard has got it. Was taking some very ginger steps on there and was second-guessing himself for going on there. It looks like an ice rink. But they've got the ball back, so that's a good thing.
That's the most important thing. Semi-beaten. Gorevsky striding. Delightful ball towards John Kellis, although slightly away from his body. He's got Gorevsky for support. Here's John Kellis. Couple of step-overs. Rolls it square. It's Gorevsky again. Sits one defender down. It's Gorevsky still towards the byline, and eventually the Knights with space to attack themselves now. Look to go down the right flank. And Astovsky. That's a makeshift pass to find Masato Chiba. Has to find the intended target. You would imagine it's Chiba. Bramwell, Semi, it's a tame effort. And it's Fonsbol who's able to claim.
I think if the Knights can just get a bit more energy into their transition here, I think that's where their goals are going to come from. Because they had the opportunity there, but again, it was a case of 3 Melbourne Knights attackers up against 5 victory defenders. And you'd hate to say it, but there was a few of the midfielders for the Knights just really plodding along through the middle, just holding that defensive shape. I think you want to be positive and just have a bit of confidence to at least try and drive forward. And look, you're 1-0 down, so you're chasing the game, so there's no point just holding off a 1-0 lead. You need to get something out of this.
Absolutely. It's really do or die for them. It's currently sitting on 10 points. I'd say it's all about seal their relegation if they were to not pick up points next week or the following week. And James Lackey is being prepared to come on for the victory, but we'll hold tight for the moment as it might sit kindly for Darcy Anastovsky. What a chance for the Knights.
Golden chance for the Melbourne Knights, and the pressure he was under, that's really all he could do with it. That was the best outcome, but unfortunately just sailed slightly over the crossbar, and that change will now be made for a Melbourne victory for a bit of a freshen up.
Here is the change. James Lackey has come on for the victory. He was signed from Green Gully after making a few senior appearances in and around the matchday squad last season. And of course, actually featured for Bayern Munich in the Bayern Challenge, World Challenge, and was then signed to the victory and played at the wing position last week against the Port Melbourne Sharks. Patrick Wall, the outside of the foot pass is with too much weight, and the former Strathmore keeper Gabriel Marti able to claim. James Lackey, talented winger, and he'll link up very nicely with Tabena Obani on that left flank. Here's Steve White. He's dropped very deep, and he does a lot of his work in that box-to-box, but it seems as if Jack Morton has taken the mantle as the number 10. I guess with a lot of quality on that central channel, it's very hard to find your true outlet for goal, Bryce.
Yeah, and I'm intrigued to see how the next 10 or so minutes plays out, Neil, as particularly with the victory. Do they start to have the thought of maybe just holding out the 1-0 lead, or do they try and go for that second goal to close out the Knights? And it wouldn't close the game off by all means, but it would obviously make it a lot harder for the Melbourne Knights to get back into it. But how do you think they'll approach that next 10 or so minutes, Neil?
Well, I don't know. I think you have to get a goal within these next 5 or so minutes. They really set the tempo, and I would love to see Emmanuel Walla-Georgis to really influence this game with much poise, as that's a great turn and a great movement from Daniel Lazarevsky, and can't exactly beat his way all the way through. Captain White now, it's with Jack Morton. Knights more calm and composed in possession. That's a nice pass out left for Adrian Valenti. Semi drifting in centrally and looked to go himself, and it's nutmegged Charlie Gorevsky, and Bramwell forces it out wide. Nice piece of play from Melbourne Knights. And Ostovsky again, and I think that took a deflection. It'll go out for a corner, but I think Charlie Gorevsky might be in a bit of danger here.
I think that little passage there, Neil, is proof that you'd have to give some serious consideration to bring Tommy Semi into at least number 8, number 10 role for the remaining half hour of this game, because any time he's taking the ball central, the victory haven't been able to deal with it. And in the wide area, you kind of isolate him out there a little bit in the left-hand wing. So you'd have to really give it some thought to bring him central to try and get something out of that middle of the park.
Absolutely so. Parker Williams back on his feet now. Here's the delivery from the Knights. It's all the way towards the back stick. But the aforementioned Anastovsky will pick up the scraps and try a bit of skill. And that didn't quite work out for him. Here's James Lackey. It's picked off. Oh, that's a shoulder barge from Tom Werndl. That's an AFL challenge, Bryce.
It's a bit of a rough call, I think, against Melbourne Knights. It was shoulder to shoulder, and you don't mind seeing two players go for it, in my opinion, quite fairly. But look, that's why you get a referee out there officiating this one and not us on the commentary. So,
well, absolutely so. Anastovsky, I do remember he was at the victory a while ago. Did play in that NPL3 team in 2022 with 20 appearances. No goals, though. And this season in the NPL hasn't quite provided the goods for the Knights either. Wall towards the back stick. Eventually headed back by the Knights. Semi once more. Looking down the line, Bramwell with a good first touch. Can he bypass Linus Burke? And he's actually won it back, the youngster.
He's done well there.
That's a really, really good utilisation of your body. And Parker Williams, the former Central Coast Mariner, looks out wide. Obani, and it's great shape upon the delivery, but Marty able to claim and throws it into the central channel for Jack Morton. Now Masato Chiba. And the Knights will compose themselves at the back.
Yeah, I think the Victory are really still trying to play the way they did in that opening 20 minutes of this match, and that was really showing their dominance. But I think the Knights have now actually stepped up.
Here's Tommy Semi with this intended strike, and Casper Fonsbol putting in a great shift tonight, playing with confidence. Certainly the complete opposite in comparison to Jonathan Sultan. And the victory through Jack Michaelides has lost the ball on that near side. And the Boris Roshan getting a bit lippy with the fourth official as well. He doesn't seem too happy about that.
No, it was a body check, but I don't think it was in the realms of being a foul, and the right call there from our referee to let it play on is, again, an example of just putting the ball forward to not really an option that's there, presenting itself. So, again, I think you just want to slightly tweak the formation if you're John Markovski, I should say, and not in terms of your playing style, but just making it a bit more narrower, because when they've played that short triangle through the centre of the park, they've got something out of it.
Lackey looks to drive it in field for Lazarevsky. Quite hasn't had the run of the green tonight, and hits the back foot of one Jack Borden, who's going to receive it on this near side once more. And has he got the pace to bypass the victory midfield? He doesn't, and opts to find White. The Knights long strides in possession. White once more. Chiba finds Darcy Anastovsky, and Charlie Gorevsky giving him a bit of food for thought. Darcy Anastovsky, we talk about players' careers and what they do off the park. Anastovsky making his name as a techno DJ, I believe. He's had a very successful few weeks in his career, and he's shaping himself up very kindly tonight. But hold that thought as Victory look to go on a trail of their own. I think we'll see a yellow card afforded to one Fraser Dunlop, who doesn't seem too phased.
Coming from a radio background like I do, Neil, I think the creativity on and off the park there are quite linked well. So I'm not surprised to hear that he's on the decks, and might have to sample some of his music on Spotify on the way home, I think.
That would be he makes some great music, to be honest.
Helps for a long drive back to Mornington.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yes. Late nights for the Melbourne Knight. We'll see a double change for the Knights. Filip Jovsevski, final of the signings made by Melbourne Knights. A few stints in and around their NPL, the 20-year-old. And Stephen Lawless as well to come on. Towards the back stick, it's Ranamisis, and Bozanovsky unable to find it.
There's some good shape on the ball there from the Victory, and it's kind of a case of being a bit flat-footed from the Melbourne Knights. Lucky that Victory probably are a bit flat-footed themselves. Didn't probably expect it to get over the back, but again, it's a warning sign for the Knights' defence that the Victory aren't going to sit in their laurels of holding a 1-0 lead, and they're going to keep trying to play. So see a bit of space here again for Tommy Semic on this left-hand wing.
Should I say Josevsky arrived in January? Josevsky still driving. Semi once more. I think the last touch came off Semi, but it's been given as a corner. And I think Yannis is not going to reverse his decision. So Stephen Lawless. Oh, it's been reversed. It has been reversed. There you go.
Well, to be fair, I think his reversal was the correct decision. I think it was quite clearly a goal kick.
Yes.
Would have been a bit of a stretch to award a corner, but I don't mind seeing a referee, but they were wrong. It doesn't happen too often.
No, not at all. And we'll see the change. Stephen Lawless, the Irishman, coming on. Stephen White, the former Altona Magic man, and well, he actually has a bit of connection to this club. Not as a player, Stephen Lawless, of course, but was once upon a time, and actually still is according to his LinkedIn, the football pathways coach at the Melbourne Victory, has been for about 2 seasons now. Filip Josevsky coming on for Darcy Anastovsky.
Substitutions for Melbourne Knights coming off: number 8, Steve White, and number 15, Darcy Anastovsky. Replaced by number 10, Stephen Lawless, and number 27, Filip Jovsevski.
And that is the most Tommy Semi effort you will see tonight.
Very ambitious. Going to make a comment on the changes from the Melbourne Knights. Maybe that is John Markovski showing his cards that he's going a bit more positive with the attacking sense, because you mentioned a few times, Stephen White's being very defensive tonight at number 6 role, and you traditionally do see him play a little bit higher up the park. So I think taking off the captain, who was defensive midfielder, definitely shows that the intent is to go all out for the remaining 25, 30 minutes of this match.
the Knights have really composed themselves in these last 15 minutes or so, and looks like Lazarevsky wants to have a tug of Tom Werndel's shirt. You can buy that at the Melbourne Knights shop.
Yeah, I like the way they have approached the opening stages of the second half.
Oh, that's a very poor giveaway. Commentator's curse, and Wall could be through here again. It's Patrick Wall, gets a touch away, not quite. That's brilliant individual skill, and Gabriel Mutti to match the offensive intuition. Pulls off a great stop.
Absolutely, the commentator's right there, Neil, because we're saying the Knights, they've really approached the opening 20 minutes of the second half with some calmness. I think they're showing the patience they didn't really have in the first half, and they were getting opportunities and getting forward, but it was more so erratic and transitional based. But yeah, definitely maybe something that was tweaked at half time from the coaching staff of the Melbourne Knights.
Oh, space for Mihalidis. Runs into a bit of danger. The Knights will have to counter here. They want any chance of drawing this game back to level terms, which it hasn't been since the 3rd minute of this contest. Gorevsky and Semi picks the pocket of Lazarevsky. He's got pace to burn. Tommy Semi again. And I think if there's one man that's going to be scoring for the Knights tonight, it will likely be Tommy Semi, who's been all over this contest. Just those long strides. Just can get himself from 10 yards out within a matter of minutes.
And again, it came from just awareness there from Tommy Semic, reading the body shape of his opposition player, and again pushing him central and biting on the second touch, which again comes back to maybe making that move to put him into the centre of the park. I think I've said it multiple times this evening. I think being in that left channel, he's getting the space, but you're making him really work for possession, where getting into the middle of the park will actually give him a bit of freedom and maybe have the players to get a bit more creative around him.
Creativity at the foremost front of mind for the Knights. They really haven't had that outlet this season. That's really come back to bite them. Gorevsky back to goal. Lazarevsky. And the Knights able to recover. Mati. A nice touch from Valenti. Wall doing his defensive duties. And Mihalidis with a good touch. Looks like Tom Werndel has him beaten all ends up. Morton rolls it back. Melbourne, Croatia. It's a great flick on from Tommy Semi, but play will be waved on. Stephen Lawless has got space to his right. Two internationals linking up. Masatu Chiba now on his right flank. Oh, looks a turn. Obani into a bit of danger. And Parker Williams chests it away for a corner. The Knights. That's probably their best passage all night, I have to say, from a holistic perspective.
And a good outcome there, Neil. I guess it comes down to that delivery again. It's either it's been there without an end product, or it's just lacked that final delivery there. So they've got to really find a balance, and it's probably been the story of their season, to be fair, Neil, where the goals have been lacking, but the opportunities are sort of presenting themselves.
Well, Casper Fomsbold is receiving a bit of instructions from Yanni Zizis. I wonder what this could be about. Maybe just pushing and shoving a bit too much. Who knows? This is their 4th keeper they've used this season, the victory.
4th keeper?
Yeah, Daniel Graskowski, Christian Siciliano, Jonathan Sultan, and now Casper Fonsbolt. And it's a long delivery from the Knights. No one in pursuit. Gorevsky able to clear it out of harm's way. Calls for a handball, waved away. Eventually it's given. Could have been a counter-attacking opportunity for the Melbourne Victory, but it wasn't to be so.
Well, I think the young lad in goals has done well tonight, considering he's been 4th choice of the season. And I think the back line too, got to give them some credit too for the victory as well. I guess it can be a bit unsettling having the man the sticks changing.
Yes. Oh,
more often than not.
Yes. Let's not forget the victory. If they lose this or manage to drop points tonight, it would have been all too much danger. They're still 2 points outside of relegation. Semi across the face. Could this be for Lawless? He's still got a chance. It's over the line! Melbourne, Croatia are back on level terms. And it's the Irishman in Stephen Lawless. who brings them back within just a goal of securing their first win in a matter of months.
And some good perseverance there from the Melbourne Knights. Some creativity again from that man that's been on the highlights reel, Tommy Semien. Dare I say, Neil, a bit of a top spin assisted that one in, from our vantage point anyway.
Oh, a bit of maybe he's a fan of the likes of Carlos Alcaraz, is Stephen Lawless. That's his fourth of the season in Melbourne Knights colours. It was beguiled as an intriguing signing, and he has delivered tonight. We've got 20 minutes to savour here at the home of the Matildas. And one thing you have to know, when Victory play at this venue, it's always fireworks in one way or another. Mihailidis shapes one in for Lazarevski. The Knights will see it out for a corner for the Victory.
Well, has a similar feel to last Monday night when you were here, Neil, with Port Melbourne.
Oh, a little bit. I mean, Port took a 2-0 lead, and the Victory actually was 1-1 at one point, now that I do think about it. So, yes, it definitely was something of that ilk. But is there more drama to follow tonight? Here is Mihailidis for the Victory. It's a tame delivery. It's gone into the back of the net, but there was an offensive foul, to utilise basketball terminology. From my vantage point, it looked to be the right decision.
Yeah, nothing like teasing the grandstand and the live stream with a goal, but it definitely crossed the back line, as you see. Oh. An erratic bit of play there from the Knights' back line.
The last win for the Melbourne Knights in the NPL Victoria has come beyond the time in which they defeated Werribee City 3-0 in the Cup. It's remarkable how long they've waited. It was 3-1 win over St Albans in late March. Last time they won at home. And it's Patrick Wall looking to weave his way past Tommy Semi. There's been the two best players tonight, and Semi does give away the foul on the right edge of the penalty area.
In a good position for the Victory here to get something on the scoreboard. I think that out of the two sides, the Knights are definitely running on enthusiasm. They were looking tired there until the goal. And, you know, one thing with the Victory youth team, they're not going to slow down. They're going to keep running out to the 92nd minute. So,
oh, yes, they will.
They've got to be alert here, the Knights.
Alert, attentiveness. This is the primary factor behind this Melbourne Knights team. A glimmer of hope has arrived, but the Victory, they know that this result, as it stands, will plunge them into a world of uncertainty, sitting on 16 points. As things currently stand, the Knights on 11. Mihailidis, backstick. Parker Williams rose highest and in turn gave away the foul. The Knights have got players to bring on as well. Let's not exactly be dissuaded by their bench. They've got quality into the form of Manuel Waller-Georges, who's a tricky customer. And you probably need pace in this game. The Victory players would have the primary advantage in terms of fitness, considering they have the whole year round to train, right?
Yeah. I think, though, it comes down to that maturity and how much they've taken out the last couple of weeks, especially last week's result, seeing out a game and getting some points out of it.
And, of course, last time these two sides met at Knight Stadium, the Victory came away 2-1 winners and is taking a similar complexion tonight. You just get the feeling as if it's not quite dead and buried for either side. That's a poor giveaway from the Victory. Bramwell in the centre circle. Got Semi to his left. He's going to take his time. Isolated with Linus Burke. Doesn't decide to utilise the byline. Twisting on his right, then his left. Tommy Semi across the face. And it's Masato Chiba weaving around on the edge of the area. Yosevsky with the long-range attempts. Wall.
It's a nice little touch.
Elegant. And Lazarevski goes to ground. Play waved on. Yosevsky sent down the line and into the fourth official area. I think he might have hit Damir Kulash. I hope he's all right.
I've seen him down beneath. I didn't realise he was with the Victory now.
Yes. Part of the football operations. Damir Kulash, NPL Victoria commentator. one of the real OGs, to be honest.
Yeah, definitely.
Here's James Lackey. Driving inside on that left-hand fly. The outside of the foot pass. Michaelides and Matti. What a delightful piece of play. And as the great Richie Bruno would say, although within a footballing contest, all around, great football.
Yeah, that was a great save from the Knights keeper, and just a bit of a warning sign again being shot out from the Victory Youth team.
This game is building towards a fever pitch as we approach the 75th minute now. Michaelides shaped in. Matti can claim. Oh, it's just whisked wide of the goal. I'm not sure who got the final touch to it, but a chance for the victory.
I can tell you now, from our vantage point, right behind the camera, that was inches away from sneaking into that far left post. But the Victory have definitely got something to get him up and about in the last few minutes of this one.
High looping ball, Bramwell. Able to win it back, Morton. The Knights playing with confidence. And Semi's free on the left flank. But Bramwell might look to go himself. They took a deflection. And, well, it's a great stride from Tabena Abani. He's able to find in space Ben Carrigan, who's glanced all the way forward. The Knights, their defensive structure has not been all there tonight, but they looked a bit more resolute in this second half. Judging by the scoreline. Lawless, that's a deft touch to find Filip Josevski. Looking inside, but eventually Victory leave it for a goal kick.
Yeah, just not on the same page there, the Melbourne Knights plays. But one thing I have noticed, Neil, in the last probably 4 or 5 minutes is just that the midfield not really tightening the game up for the Victory. I think there is a chance here for the Knights if they can expose it.
Casper Phone's ball, a bit of danger playing out of the back, and as you mentioned in the first half, Bryce, the Victory were not looking to play the long balls forward, but they have done in the second half, looking for the likes of Lazarevski, who it's certainly a deviation from the norm.
Yeah, and they've really drawn the game out. They were really playing in lines of 30 yards. You hear coaches say all the time, 30 yards in between your defensive and your attacking line, but it's really opened up for the Victory. But to be fair, it's probably to their detriment as we see a good ball into the 18-yard box.
Gets a good touch away, just hasn't found that final delivery to have found Victory so far, but eventually it's fashioned long. Semi with the touch. Radamisis was caught late, it appears, by Filip Josevski.
Yeah, I think if I was John Markovski from his vantage point, particularly going forward, you can see that the space is opening up for the Knights.
So too for the Victory now. Wall puts himself in a bit of danger, was Adrian Valentian. Just on the edge of the 18-yard area, he goes to ground as Patrick Wall. So it's a liminal angle. It's one of the most acute angles I've ever seen for a free kick in this league. It won't be easy. But what would you do from this position?
Sometimes it's more awkward to actually have a free kick in this position because you're going to put a ball into a very compacted box, or do you recycle it out and then run the risk of turning it over in a transition to the opposition? So it's it's a hard one, and this is where the Victory will show that year in, year out training, and the coaching staff will be all over this situation.
Well, you would hope so. Patrick Wall given the task to stand over this one. The tall timber, Bozanovsky, Parker Williams amongst it. This also crucial moment for them to potentially salvage their campaign. They've faced 2 relegation-threatened candidates in the last 2 weeks of fixtures. And it is going to be Patrick Wall. Goes direct, seemingly. It might sit kindly. It does, and it just drifts wide. After a fingertip save from Gabriel Matti. And it was Jimmy Lackey with the attempted long range, I'd say half volley, I would say. Probably.
Yeah, it was a great strike, and he connected well, and it's one of those sight unseen saves. The results in the corner.
From right to left, the Victory with the corner. It's an in-swinger. It loops high. It's Bozanovsky. Matti punches it off the line. To the applause from the Knights fans. Can they have the opportunity to counter? What a thunderous challenge from Linus Burke. Those are tackles you dream of as a youngster.
Timed it perfectly, and he had to, because if he didn't make that challenge, the Knights had a two-man advantage coming through the centre of the park.
Kieran Bramwell pokes it over the top. Has awarded the free kick. Knights, this is the most confidence I've seen them play with in weeks or months, perhaps. I mean, they did take the lead early against Avondale a few weeks ago and succumbed to an enormous loss, an enormous defeat. But tonight, they just seem to have hit their straps.
And they've definitely started pushing numbers through the midfield now. Seeing Ben Carrigan really stepping out of that centre-back role into a more midfield role going forward. So maybe the Knights coaching staff and John Markowski have identified that the Victory midfield is starting to sort of let it open up.
It's Valenti. Well, there was no one to meet it. And I think James Lackey is going to be tasked with bypassing his way through this Melbourne Knights attack, and lost the ball initially and did bypass Masato Chiba. He just has an immense means of confidence after breaking into this team. There's James Lackey, who's now with Gorevsky, who's dropping deep to receive. The Victory now lose out in possession. It's Morton. They have to be very clinical. Now with Bramwell, who tracks deep. He's got space to his right. Masato Chiba of Barney coming up to defend and tracking back diligently. The overlapping delivery arrives eventually. Might have set up nicely for Semi. The Victory able to get it out of harm's way. Wall. His header directed right into the path of Adrian Valenti. And they'll hold it back, the Knights. Will they look to go forward? They will, through a lateral manner, but it's cheaply given away. And I don't think Mihailidis knew quite where the ball was, but eventually retrieves now. Chips it across towards the back post. And Fraser Dunlop says, anywhere will do. And James Lackey sends it out of play for a throw.
And it looks like the Victory are actually setting up for that early long ball, which they're not decided to do that. So when it does happen, you're going to have the space for the Knights to play if they can win that transition, as we've seen on numerous times, and we'll see it again.
Space for Bramwell, and Wall gives away the corner again. The Knights, well, they are on the charge. They are unrelenting, and despite the defensive lapses in judgment, somehow they are still playing out of the back with confidence. Valenti, short corner taken. Vasevsky. And they'll reset through a makeshift centre-back of Fraser Dunlop. Laterally, Vasevsky. Semi. Heavy touch. The Knights control once again.
Well, you've got to keep control there, because if they turn that ball over with Tommy Semi, Victory had three midfielders waiting to swallow it up.
It's Bramwell. Shifts onto his right. It's Kieran Bramwell. Knights fans urged to shoot. He shot and he nearly hit the scoreboard.
I think that's a case of not listening to the crowd screams. I think it's just backing your own ability and knowing what you're capable of and ignoring what's coming from the grandstand up next to us.
It was a slow starter in this league was Kieran Bramwell, and eventually has found his feet, even in a relegation-threatened season. It's close to 10 goals on the campaign, which is a good return. Looks like Patrick Wall has switched to that left flank now in the last few minutes, and Filip Josevsky has got space to roam within. He's got the advent of Fraser Dunlop on that right flank. Jack Morton. Josevsky. Quick ball movement from Melbourne Knights. Morton. Bramwell offering the run. Decide to go left now is Tom Werndl. Valenti. Good bit of play. Here's Semi. On his right foot. Took a deflection through. It seems as if there's always a handball call when Tommy Semi gets the ball, Bryce.
Yeah, it's obviously cries of trying to get anything out of the situation, but as you see 5 minutes to go, I think it's really looking like a case of Victory trying to shore things up and the Knights really going for it, which the way the ladder looks, a point's probably going to be more beneficial for the victory. But still, if I was victory, they look more threatening out of two going forward. So if I was them, I would keep trying to play and just be positive, and you might end up getting something out of it. So
it's funny you speak of that. It is Mr. Late Winners, well, would-be winners himself, Mr. Late Goals, Tommaso Minatoli. Did score 2 late goals against South Melbourne Hellas in round 3 of the NPL Victoria. Hasn't featured much since. And what a great time for him to come on and show what he is made of. And it comes on for Michailidis, looking for a more striking option. And Fraser Dunlop looked to bite his way through. Alex Hurd is to come on, and an NPL Victoria debut for teenager Emmanuel Waller-Georgis. Has bided his time through the NPL Victoria system as a youngster and receives his opportunity tonight in one of the most crucial phases you could possibly imagine. Just 17 years of age and had 2 goals in 11 games in the under-23s competition.
Wearing a number 62 as well. You love to see it.
Oh, it's great. It's Tommy Semi! Oh! It set very nicely for him. Had to make a clean connection. Wasn't successful. And we will see the changes now. Alex Hurd, the former Western United Academy youngster and Port Melbourne Shark. He also happens to be the son of James Hurd, famous footballing royalty member. And that was actually Tommy Semi's last act of the night. And so too, we'll see the debut of Emmanuel Waller-Georgis. Wowee.
No.
What a baptism of fire for this youngster.
I know, and I would have left on Tommy Semi, to be honest with you. I think he's been very threatening all night, even in his last phase of play there, but maybe the jump in levels from where he's come from in recent weeks has played a part in that decision.
He's a very crucial player in that narrow loss to Northcote City.
Replaced by number 4, Alex Hurd, and number 62, Emmanuel Waller-Georgis.
Formerly of Werribee City. Looks like Yannis is going to have to go into the book and give Tommaso Minatoli a yellow card. A very divisive figure in Victorian football, Tommaso Minatoli. South Melbourne and Port Melbourne youngster at one point as well, has scored a litany of goals at youth level. And here is James Lackey driving down that right flank. Jovsevski providing support. He can't get past him, and eventually he wins out and wins the corner.
And this is again a case of showing some maturity for the victory, trying to hold out the lead. As I said a few moments ago, they've looked at the more threatening of the two, actually trying to play and promote the ball forward. So it's an interesting decision here, and it's cost them in recent weeks, and they seem to be doing it again.
Well, they have to really go all balls to the wall here. A point won't be enough in the trajectory of their season. And I think instead of delivery now, Mati comes to punch. Minatoli looked to have a sight at it. And the Knights come away with it. Waller-Georgis is free, the youngster. On this near side, receives. He's got Alex Hurd. Oh, that had to be perfect. He just couldn't get the purchase on it. But Adrian Valenti eventually spots out Alex Hurd. The Knights trundling forward now. Fraser Dunlop himself too. It's shaped in nicely. Doesn't sit quite though. Josevski. It's Bramwell. Good touch. Stephen Lawless.
And the young boy was on the left-hand side. They didn't play him through.
And it looks like, well, there's a player down through all the commotion. There was a player down for the victory. I think it might be Damian Bozanovski.
Oh, the fresh substitute for the Melbourne Knights, a 17-year-old. He was open in space, and they just didn't get their head up at the right time and have a look, as he was open and had to take one touch and shoot.
That was golden. Had to be. It had to be perfect. It just wasn't. And I wonder how many minutes of added time we will see. We've had a few injury stoppages here and there. And certainly getting colder and colder, Bryce. I can barely feel my hands at the moment. And
No, it is quite cold. Having come back from Darwin in recent weeks, I can tell you it's cold on my body thermometer. But nonetheless, it's been hot action on the park, which has been good to see. And these last 30 seconds in stoppage time are going to be no different.
Well, will we be treated to stoppage time delight or misery? It depends on what persuasion you are. Bozanovsky looks okay to come back on, the captain. As we reach the 90, and I am a betting man, we'll see 5 minutes. It is 5 minutes. Well, 5 minutes for either side to essentially be in a chance of saving their season. Long ball played over the top. Can Fonsball reach it? He can't! And he's close to the spot! What a crucial error for the victory back four, and the Knights are on the precipice. The precipice! Can they do it? Afforded a lifeline. Oh my dear Lord.
Some football smarts there, Neil. He was going away from goal, but he put his foot in and the keeper took the bait. So he's played that very well. Has the Melbourne Knights striker, and, well, this is what they were hoping for, that last chance in extra time to go up 2-1 on the scoreboard. And who's going to hold their nerve, Neil, to take this one?
It is Kieran Bramwell. He has stayed through turbulent times, recent board restructure, new president, Tony Topcic, would have hoped and dreamed for this moment. It's been 3 months, 30th of March, 2025, since the Melbourne Knights last won an NPL Victorian match. It is Kieran Bramwell from the spot. Is delivered! The Melbourne Knights are just about there. Turbulent periods, unwavering ambition for success, and on the dangerous landscape of settling down into VPL 1, you just say they're fighting their way, and this is the way in which they do it. Not easy.
Well, if you're thinking of going bad, as you saw extra time come in, stand around for 4 more minutes or so, because this is going to be some of the most electrifying 4 minutes of NPL Victoria football you've seen all season, Neil. There's a lot on the line in this game, and this next 4 minutes is going to be absolutely crucial, and you can guarantee we haven't seen the last of this game just yet.
It is Kieran Bramwell. Who else? He's stayed through the pain. He's stayed through the adversity. It's been maintained. It's been resolute. It has been a professional second half from John Markovsky's men. They've had to wait 3 months for a win in this competition. They've played under 23 sides in the Doherty Cup to salvage their season, and the victory themselves as well, who sit on 15 points as things currently stand, could be plunged into another world of disarray if they weren't able to secure the all-important point tonight, and Alex Hurd is able to head it forward. Wow, Bryce.
It's great to see. You didn't want to see a stale 1-1 draw.
Oh, might not be too exactly defined for the victory, as Gabriel Marti is going to take his time tonight.
For the football neutral, or the neutral NPL Victoria fan, it's a result you want to see with the remaining fixtures that we have lined up for the NPL season.
Oh, yes it is. And Bozanovsky has had to play it back to Casper Fomsbol. And could the Knights potentially secure themselves another? Well, the Georgians unable to play the all-important pass. Now Lackey. Victory have to bring it forward. Knights players folding like bowling pins. And they win it back again, and they just send it forward. Anywhere will do, and players are dropping like flies. It's like
any form of communication went out the window there for about 10 seconds, Neil. And it's resulted in two boys having a head clash.
Well, how about this for the victory? They thought they could have been home and hosed, a point at home. In the last 2 weeks at home, they're looking to have dropped 6 points against teams that are in around them. Oh, it doesn't get any easier as well.
Well, the way this game's played out now, I've said it a few times, when they were playing and trying to get the ball forward, they were the dominant side, let's be honest, by quite a bit, but trying to hold on to some points in this game has cost them potentially, again, a point, let alone 3 points. So I think they're going to have to learn from this, especially coming into the back end of this NPL season, the few games that we do have left, that they're a positive side when they're playing and trying to get the goal, not holding out a game.
Adamisis looks wide, Hurd heads away. It's Wall. They are still fighting for it. And it's the victory too. Walla Georgis. Bramwell. Last touch came off a victory player. This will do an abundance for the Knights' confidence, and we will see another entry for the Melbourne Knights. Just to wind down the clock, Joseph Letelieri. And it is, well, what about this? Emmanuel Georges' NPL debut lasted 5 minutes.
Oh, maybe 10-0, maybe 10, but probably the shortest NPL Victoria that we've ever seen.
Melbourne Knights have a pulse. The most adversarial position for this football club in the last 25 years has a brief moment of salvation. Goals from Stephen Lawless and Kieran Bramwell have secured their first win in exactly 3 months, Bryce Reuben. Wow-wee.
Well, that gives a bit of a heartbeat to the Melbourne Knights. Remaining fixtures of this 2025 NPL season, and you can see the jubilation on their face here beneath us on the live stream, and it's going to bring Summer Street to life this week, particularly on the training park, and look, see what happens in the next couple of games.
Well, new board, fresh identity.
New result.
A good result, most importantly. The victory left to Rue. They had their chances. They should have scored more than one tonight. Back to the drawing board for them. They don't exactly have the luxury of being able to bring in players of the quality and experience of other teams around them. But they are well within its chance of getting out of that relegation spot. But however, it's beginning to heat up. Knights also have a game in hand. They're playing the Oakley Cannons next week in that revised fixture on Friday night. I've been Neil Simons. And Bryce Reuben, your final thoughts ahead of another massive weekend of the NPL this weekend?
Yeah, a great 95 minutes of action here at the home of the Matildas, and can't wait to do it all again, Neil. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. We'll see you soon. What a night.